So welcome back all you Flux Automators, and today we are going to review the Govee TV Backlight 3 Lite. I'm not sure what it's called Lite. I'm assuming we're going to be getting a third version of this, which is the heavy. All jokes aside, I think the next one that they're going to bring out is the upgrade from the T2, and they're going to be adding a lot of functionality, but this is a cheaper version, entry level one, which is the third one to hit the market, and hopefully down the line we're going to get a fourth one. So we're just going to go over and just discuss what are the good things about this 3 Lite compared to the T2, which is also on the market but still a little bit more expensive, and just wondering why this is a cheaper option.
Flux Automate.
Now, I'm not really going to do unboxing and go over the bits and pieces that are inside the box because there's many other channels that do the same thing. All I want to do is just do a side-by-side comparison and just look at the devices themselves and also how they impact the vision and the viewing when you're connected to the TV, and see, is it worth purchasing this or is it worth the T2, for example, or should you hold off and wait for the T3 version? And are they going to bring a T3? I think Govee have got a lot up their sleeves. They've been releasing so many things lately that I think, something's in the pipeline. So why do we release this now? Your guess is as good as mine. So all I'm going to do is break down a couple of components within the box. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I know from the T2 to the T3 and even the T1, there's lots of variants in terms of the LED strips, the cameras, the way the cameras operate, but also the power supplies which connect all the devices together. Now, before we go any further, I want to call out Govee, please, 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 please bring back the light bars. I'm not sure why you just got rid of the light bars all of a sudden, but they did add a lot of value to the consumer. I think it was great having them in the package, meaning you can add extra lighting without having to buy any LED light stands or any additional bulbs. You had them right there, and they're quite useful in terms of where you could put them within the room. So if they are listening, or if you are listening, please add it back to the next version. So before we go any further, now I'll be making a lot of videos in and around home automation, including Amazon devices and a lot of Govee devices. Now, I hope a lot of you out there are getting a lot of benefit from clicking and watching these videos. And I'm just trying to get the numbers up, and up, so I can bring more content to you guys. So if you could do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and also hit the notification bell so you'll be notified whenever I release a new video on the channel, and you can be well informed about the next product that you're about to purchase. So the first things I'm going to be looking at is the cameras themselves. So here we have the T2, and to my right we have the 3 Lite. And you'll notice straight away that one is a little bit bigger than the other. And one of the main things and main components that has changed on this is the fact that we have 2 cameras on the T2 and 1 camera on the T3. Now, apparently the T3 has a new fisheye lens type of technology going on. As I said, the T2 has the 2 cameras left and right, and let me just move this to one side. You'll notice that the angles that I can actually set this to is quite wide. I can get it almost flat. Okay, the benefits of having this to be really flat is the fact that you can place this underneath your screen. So you have enough distance from the screen to set it up and configure it correctly. So you can get optimal configuration and get all the corners of the screen. Now going to the Lite, I nearly called it a T3 Lite, but the 3 Lite, you'll notice now if I unfold it, it doesn't really go flat. So biggest issue with this is that I can't put this underneath the screen. So you'll notice from my previous videos, I moved my camera from a T2 to the bottom because I think it looked way better. It didn't look like an antenna sitting at the back of your TV, and you don't really notice it after a while. But with the 3 Lite, you're not able to do that. You can't get enough distance from the screen. So if you put it flat here, you're very much in line here. So if we look at the difference between the T3, and then the T2. So you'll see the T2 actually goes a little bit past 180 degrees. Whereas the T3 is like on I'd say like a 110 degree angle. And that will cause you problems if you're trying to mount it on the bottom of the screen. So that is the first drawback. And as I said, it is a cheaper version and it is the Lite. So you'd assume that they're going to pull back and hold back on certain options that you can use these cameras for. So the devices themselves are similar in weight. The T2 is more weighty. And what I noticed also when you put it on top of the television, if you're doing it from the top, the actual weight on this allows it to sit like more snug and more confident. Whereas the 3 Lite, because it's still flimsy, it's kind of like it's sitting there, but you don't know if it's going to fall off. You don't know if it's going to stay in the same position all the time. I mean, when we're looking at the T3 Lite, it's got an anchor. It's got a heavier point here, which makes it so much easier when you want to actually balance it on the top of your TV. So that is a few issues that I've found with using one over the other. So let's go to size-wise. The T2 is a little bit bigger because it has the 2 cameras, so it has to be spread out. But I feel like the whole presentation of the T2 is still better. The T3 looks a little bit more modern, or I should say the 3 Lite looks a little bit more modern. But the fact that we've got this kind of material on the back of here adds it like there's some microphone or something in here, but I don't think there actually is. But it just gives a little bit more of a quality appeal to actually the devices themselves. So when it comes down to it, looks wise, weight wise, how it sits on your television, I would say right now the T2 is a better of the devices, but it's almost twice the price. But if you keep an eye out on Amazon, they always do have sales of these devices, so you can probably get this, probably the same price as this. So as you can see, both devices still are connected by USB-C, and you'll notice on here on mine, this is where I actually Velcro it to the television. Haven't done that on here because you can't actually do it. But all the leads, the hinges feel quite steady and very usable. I don't see anything wrong with that from that point of view. So moving on to the controllers, you'll notice that both the controllers are near enough the same looks from the front. But if we turn to the side, we actually have 2 different types of connections with the power input, because the adapters are rated differently. When we go on the right side of it, you'll notice the USB-Cs have been put in different places, which is a little bit weird as to why they've done that. I have a feeling that the next version will have something extra here, and it's probably actually built into this device. When it comes to power supply, we notice that the T2 is slightly larger than the 3 Lite. And as I said before, when we look at the output from these devices, we will notice that we have the 12 volt 3 amps, and then we have a 2 amp on this side. So there are 2 different rated power supplies. As I said before, it'd be nice if they were all the same and we could use them on different devices, but that's how Govee do it. If you picked up many other devices before, you would notice that most of their LED lights and their strip lights and their light bars and floor lamps, they all come with a different type of power supply, which makes it a little bit hard. If you put something away for a while and you bring it back out, you need to make sure you keep everything together. So moving on to the LED strips themselves, which is the main point when you're using any of these types of devices. The better the quality of the LED strip, the better kind of reproduction, and the further and the more mixed into the environment, you'll feel immersed. So if we're looking at both of these 2 now, we have the T2 on this side, we have the T2 right here, and then we have the 3 Lite right here. And you will notice that there's probably a third more lights on the T2 compared to the 3 Lite. So you see you got 1, 2, 3 compared to 1, 2 on here. Now apparently it's supposed to be RGBIC on the 3 Lite. I need to make sure and check my information on that. I'll post it right here so you can know the difference between the two. But when it comes down to the actual performance, I've noticed that the T2 is still a better performer. And what I want to do now is just do a side-by-side so you can see the difference between the color representation on the screen and also the changing between the different values of the colors. Because you have less LEDs on that Lite 3 or the 3 Lite, it does make a lot of difference when you're actually viewing it. Now, this is probably something that you may or may not see. If you've had the T2 and you move into the 3 Lite, you're definitely going to see the difference. If you've never used any of these devices before, or you're coming from the T1, you'll probably see a little bit of a difference. But I will say this 3 Lite is more of a budget entry level. And as I said before, I can't wait for them to release the T3, or they may call it a T4, or maybe something totally new. Who knows? Just before we get into the videos, I just want to let you know that I tried to set everything equally the same. I may have had to change things a little bit when it comes to the white balance because of the different cameras picking up different lights. And we'll just talk through some of the examples and the areas that I feel that one may be better than the other, and where one might be failing comparing to the other. So let's move on to the actual performance and see how these devices pair up side by side. So to the left, we have the T2, and to the right, we have the 3 Lite. So first things first, as you're looking at the screen, you'll notice straight away that the darks and anything black on the screen for the 3 Lite will actually turn the LEDs really super low, or even to the point that they're off. Whereas the T2, everything is always bright and adding a little bit of colors where there shouldn't be colors. I initially thought it was something to do with the quality of this TV screen I had, but now looking at this with the 3 Lite, I'm noticing it has nothing to do with that. It's just how the cameras pick up and manage the colors. So a big thumbs up to the 3 Lite for actually being able to turn anything black or dark on the screen to be totally off with those LEDs. But I would say sometimes you want a bit more warmth in what you're playing or what you're watching, so the T2 could be for you in that area of things. But on the whole, it would be great if the next version you are able to adjust that to have either it display like the T2 or the 3 Lite. So let's just scroll through so you can see the difference as the colors come in to the screen. You'll notice it gets really bright on the T2 compared to the 3 Lite, but then all the other colors will stay dark on the 3 Lite. Scroll through this some more. Okay, now looking at the color representation, now I feel like the 3 Lite sometimes over saturates the color and gives it a deeper green. Now this could be down to the white balance. Maybe I need to recalibrate it or set it again, but I did spend a lot of time trying to get it to that point. But you'll see the T2 actually represents the colors as they display on the screen. Now this varies between different videos, and you'll see as we're going along all the differences. So if I scroll through some more, okay, you can see the same thing again. It does get it almost correct on the 3 Lite, but the T2 is doing a way better job. Now this is a point which I found quite interesting in terms of that green that's flashing and going to the left hand side of the screen. It's getting really vibrant on the T2, whereas the 3 Lite isn't actually representing a lot of that color, which is a bit weird. It would be great if it did produce that a lot better, but hands down T2 is winning this part of the versus challenge. Scrubbing through some more. So let's see the colors hitting the other side of the screen, and same thing again. The greens are much more vibrant and brighter on the T2 compared to the 3 Lite. Okay, so this particular example, we'll notice the 3 light is much brighter when it comes to above the screen, which is a little bit weird. It doesn't manage as well on the sides, but at the top of the screen, it does a much better job. But the T2 keeps it more consistent. So we'll scrub through that a little bit more and you'll notice the management of the colors is much brighter for the 3 light. Now this could be more down to the fact that these colors are nearer to the camera itself, so it's going to be able to receive more light and more colors to then represent on the screen. Let's go to the bottom of the screen. T2 doing a much better job, but the camera is at the bottom of the screen, so this could be in relation to each other. You know, the closer the light is to the particular camera, the brighter it's going to be. But the only downside, as I said just previously, is when it comes to the size, the T2 is winning over the 3 light in terms of representing what is actually being displayed on the screen. Again, in this example, matching the colors, the T2 is doing a better job. The 3 light isn't too bad, but it could be way better. Okay, in this next clip, you'll notice that the reds and the pinks are being displayed much more vibrant on the 3 light compared to the T2. In this example, so the 3 light is doing a better job in representing what is actually on the screen. And as I said before, it's close to the camera, so it's doing a much better job because it's closer to the camera. In this next piece, you'll notice the reds on the left hand side, even though it's represented on the screen, it's closer to the camera. The 3 light does a good job to a point, and then the colors just drop off, whereas on the T2, those colors are still represented on screen, as you can see. Here we have the blue shooting up from the top, and you'll notice it's doing a better job on the T2. I'll probably say between the two, the T2 is doing a better job, especially down and around the bottom. As I said, the camera is sitting right here, so it's getting more of the light, so it's, you know, representing the colors a little bit better. Here we have the colors at the top of the screen, and there's so much pink going on here. It's not even representing any of the yellow, which I feel it's okay, but it could be way better. Whereas here we're getting a lot of the yellow, even though it's further away from the camera. The T2 is doing a better job, and I guess it all comes down to preference in this scenario. Looking at the bottom left hand side of the screen right now, you'll see a lot of pink going on, and the representation of that is much stronger on the T2. The 3 light does an okay job, but I feel in the corners and on the edges of the screen, the 3 light doesn't do as great a job in terms of producing a lot more light for your experience. Again, coming to the side, we've got that yellow shooting up from the left hand side. On the T2, it's getting really bright and really yellowy. On the 3 light, for some reason, that yellow isn't even really being represented. Let's play that clip. Let's bring it back so you can see that. Let's play it over and over again. So now playing the video of actually moving film, you'll notice that the color representation of the 3 light does do a better job in certain instances, but I'm really liking the feel of the T2 much better. So if I just pull it back just a moment and we get back to here. Okay, so in this example, you can see like a rainbow effect going on above the T2, which is representing exactly what's going on the screen. So you've got like a rainbow effect going on here, whereas the 3 light doesn't represent that at all, even though it's quite close to the camera. So I do really like that, but at the same time, that color isn't right at the edge. So maybe if that color was nearer the edge here, it'll probably represent it a bit better with the 3 light. Again, here when it comes to the blacks, we gain a better representation of that on the 3 light. The T2 tends to add all these extra colors in that actually don't really appear in this area, which is a downside. So the 3 Lite is performing way better than the T2 here. So with this fish on screen, you'll notice that it has a bit of pink, a bit of yellow, a bit of blue. And if we scrub through just a little bit, we'll get to the point where the T2 actually represents a lot more of the yellow, mixing with the pink, making it a bit orange, but also displays the pink. Whereas the 3 Lite creates a merge of all these colors. So we scrub through a little bit more, you'll notice that even with the fish coming in on the left hand side, the T2 is doing a better job in representing that color. Another area where the 3 Lite works a little bit better is in this example here. We've got some blue sky next to the pink, and it represents that in the colors on the left top hand corner, whereas the T2 doesn't get to perform or show any of that blue throughout the whole of the clip. In this clip, you'll see the bottom left hand corner of the 3 Lite is really dark, almost black, whereas the T2, it's still turned on. It is a lot darker, but in comparison to the 3 Lite, it doesn't get close to it. In this clip, we can see on the 3 Lite, because the camera has to be at the top of the screen, you're going to notice any cables that run along the LEDs at all will actually reflect on the wall. I guess a better way for me to have done that is actually to stick it much closer to the back of the screen. But at the same time, because the back end of the camera itself sticks out a bit, you can't really taper it in too much. So as I scroll through some more, you'll notice again more flickering in terms of these LEDs being switched on and off and the changing of their colors. Whereas compared to the T2 has a much smoother transition. Now in this video clip, you'll notice it quite a lot in terms of it flickering on and off. Now on the 3 Lite, you'll notice a lot of flickering. It's much more pronounced compared to the T2. Now this does relate to what's going on the screen with the video, but I am feeling and liking the T2's management of this over the 3 Lite. Another example of the flickering that you'll notice is when playing a game. In this example, you'll see a lot more flickering going on just right here. Even though it does match kind of what's going on screen, it would be nice if it faded a lot more compared to it just switching on and off. You'll also be able to see a lot of the rainbow effect and the relation of the USB-C cord coming off the back of the TV. It's reflecting on the wall and just causing a lot more of the separation that you can see going on. Due to where the camera is, you'll notice on the 3 Lite, it's picking up exactly where the light is occurring in the video. So it's picking up right here and it's doing a really good job of that. Whereas the T2 doesn't actually pick up any of that. I guess because it's not bright enough to hit the camera at the bottom. This could be to do with calibration and other things like that. But in this example, the closer the light is or the color is to the actual camera, the better it performs. Now this is a downside of having these types of backlight LEDs, whereas if you're using the HDMI, it picks up everything, so it knows exactly where all the colors are and the brightnesses are. But with this type of product, it's not able to pull up everything or pick up everything as it is or as a video is being fed. But the upside to it is that anything that displays on that screen will be represented, whereas when you use those HDMI type of devices, you have to plug in any input that's going into the TV through that unit. So if you're using a TV that has its own built-in channels and applications, you can't actually connect it to those devices. So this is just a side-by-side comparison between the 2 lights as they're going along. So in this next clip, what I've done is just picked up what's being displayed at the bottom of the screen, and you'll notice right at this point here, you've got such a rainbow effect going on here because there isn't enough LEDs to display the differences between this side and this side. Whereas the T2, it's much smoother. Colors aren't as great or matching the representation, so the 3 Lite is doing a better job in terms of matching those colors, but because there isn't enough LEDs there, it does make it stand out, and you actually notice it while you're watching it. A lot of flickering you'll notice at some point, especially when you're watching a slow movie and a slow movement. You'll notice that a lot more, whereas when you're playing a game and it's quick action, you're most likely not going to see any of that. I'll leave a link to the full video so you can watch all the comparisons and compare it for yourself and take your time to figure out which one's better for you. So my overall verdict when it comes to these two devices is, if you have the money or you want to hold out and wait for the discounts that usually happen on Amazon, I would stick with the T2. If you want something really quick and you want to get it right now and you're on a budget, then go with the 3 Lite. Both of these devices add so much to your entertainment and your experience that you won't be sold short if you buy one over the other. But when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, this is a much better device compared to this. Not just from the camera perspective and the setup, but also from the LEDs and how it's displaying your colors on your screen. If you're gaming, you can always just go with this, to be honest. But if you're into films and like that immersive environment, especially if you've got other members of your family who will notice flickers and stuff like that, then go with the T2. So marks out of 10, I would give this device, the T2, a 8.5, whereas the 3 Lite, I'll probably give it like a 5 or 5.5, mainly because of the LEDs at the end of the day. I wish, and I may actually try to use the LEDs from the T2 on the 3 Lite. Not sure if it will work, but stick with the channel and maybe I might bring that to you and then see if you have the T2 already and you're upgrading to the 3 Lite, which is, I'm not sure if that's an actual upgrade, but you might find one better than the other. So at the end of the day, which device would I prefer to have? And I gotta say the T2 is my go-to right now. The 3 Lite it's okay. If you're just entering into this and you've never used the devices before, you're probably not going to notice any difference because you haven't experienced it before. But if you're going from the T2 and you're thinking of upgrading, I would hold out because I'm sure Govee have something in the bag that they're about to pull out in terms of a T3 Pro or T3 Deluxe or something like that. And I'm really looking forward to the next generation. But if you're on a budget, go for the 3 Lite. If you have the money or you hold out and watch out for any sales, then go for the T2. There's a lot of things that both of these things do bring to the table, but I think once Govee come out with their next iteration of this, they will probably merge all the benefits or the greatness from both devices and put them in one, and we'll have something marvelous. So please stay tuned because guarantee when the next device comes, I will review it and bring you my honest opinions and advise you on where you should spend your money. So thanks for checking out the channel. Make sure you subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.